Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, just excited for this week. Obviously, it's big for us because it's senior week, an opportunity to honor 24 players who've contributed a lot to our program. Some of them have been here for 6, 7 years. Some of them have been here for just a year. Some of them have transferred in, but all have made significant contributions to our program that we're excited to recognize. The thing about playing football and playing at Mizzou is you get to join a brotherhood that expands for however long we've been playing this game, and you get to be a part of this great university and tradition of Mizzou football, and that's not something to take lightly, and it's only reserved for those who finish and finish here at Mizzou. And so we'll be excited to honor those men on the football field on Saturday, which makes this a big game. Makes it a really big game for us, not just because it's an SEC game and not just because it's against a competitive and good Florida Gator football team, but because it's for our seniors and the opportunity for us to end this season at home the right way and let those guys celebrate the right way. And so with that, pouring a lot of energy and effort into this game. Obviously, it's going to be a very difficult game. They're very talented on both sides of the football. And know that they're not where they want to be from a season standpoint, but when you watch the tape, it's hard exactly to pinpoint why. They've got really good football players on both sides of the ball and on special teams. On defense, their defensive line is as good as anybody we've played. They've got elite pass rushers with Brenton Cox Jr. and or Jeremiah Moon, who also, Jeremiah also plays a little bit of linebacker. I think Zachary Carter. They're really big with the Gavin Dexter. Their linebackers are very good players, physical downhill. Khair Elam is, in my opinion, one of the top 2, maybe top DBs in the conference, which would put him in elite company in the country too. They've got depth at safety, who've played a lot of football that we've gone against, and so defensively, multiple fronts, schemes, blitzes, coverages, and are able to keep defenses off balance, or offenses off balance. Offensively, they've got a very talented wide receiver core that's got depth. I believe that Jacob Copeland he was one of the highest ranked players. Justin Shorter is a transfer from Penn State that played well against us last year. Their offensive line is big and physical. All of them average over 300 pounds. The quarterback position, obviously Emory Jones last week set the all-time record, I think, for passing yards in a game against and I think they've had some pretty special quarterbacks at Florida, so that's rare air to be in. Obviously, they have another quarterback that's very talented, Anthony Richardson, that hasn't played because of injury or whatnot, and they alluded to he would be ready to go this week with a package, which quarterback run has given us issues in the past, so we've got to make sure we're on top of that. And then I think their running backs run hard. So obviously, it's a very difficult test, and we're going to need our best stuff going in this game. I'd also like to congratulate Isaiah McGuire on being the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. And then, again, give Tyler Beatty a shout-out for his 4th 200-yard game. I saw a stat where there's only been 3 running backs do that in the last several years, and obviously 2 of those games are against SEC opponents. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Eli, where are you at as far as picking your starting quarterback? And is that a process that goes through the week, or you already know what you're going to do?
No, we're going to have great practice today. We're going to compete today and practice today and tomorrow and see where we're at and see who gives us the best chance to win.
Is it similar to last week where you can't have 3 separate plans?
I don't know if it's fair to say that. I think we, no different than, after a game early in the season where we said, hey, competition brings out the best in everybody. And so we're going to compete, and we'll see where it goes.
Have you seen progress from Connor Rizlek from the start of the season to now?
I mean, it depends how you define progress and where you see it, and there's all kinds of different ways that you can measure it. There's certainly been some progress in some plays. I think our deep ball accuracy's been improved. I think being able to hit shots down the field. I thought, that throw he made to Mookie Cooper with a guy in his face and took a hit was was very impressive. But there's also been some plays that you just can't have at the quarterback position. And I mean, I'm not saying anything that we all don't know and recognize. And, so there's the worst thing that you can do on a football play is turn the ball over. Like it's the worst you can do. Taking a sack's bad. Throwing an incompletion's bad, but it's not the worst thing. The worst thing you can do is turn the football over. And so, for our football team, we have to be able to protect the ball, especially when our defense forces 3 turnovers. So I think there's been step forward. I think there's been some things that we got to continue to improve on. We're still really young at that quarterback position. And again, there were some NFL quarterbacks that threw some really crazy interceptions in that Sunday night game too. So that's part of playing the position. You just got to make sure they're not poor decision making.
Is there a kind of next level of focus you ask of your guys as you get into crunch time the next couple of weeks and the things you want to achieve?
I don't know if there's a next level focus. I think we've seen starve your distractions and feed your focus. I think it's just making sure that you clear the clutter of all the external things and just make sure the main thing is the main thing. And that's really what we're trying to focus on doing. We've got, it's probably maybe 10 days right now. We got 2 games in 10 days, in the next 10 days, maybe it's 11 days. But so we've just got to make sure that we're focused on the things that are important. And you got the rest of your life to, get on TikTok and get on, dating apps and all that other stuff. You got 10 days to play 2 SEC football games that are going to determine what kind of season we have.
When you have a week like this where you have that, 6th win on the line and bowl game stuff, is that something that you lean into?
No.
Do you avoid that? How do you kind of navigate that?
I think it's important for us to focus on being 1-0. And then at the end of the season, you stack up how many wins you have and determine where you go. But there doesn't need to be any more external pressure because this game determines whether or not we go to a bowl game. If we're not motivated to go play for our seniors, if we're not motivated to play at home, like how much motivation do you need? So I'm not leaning into that at all, really.
Do you go by the Gary Pickles mantra of those that win in November will be remembered? Is that something you bring up to your guys at all?
Yeah, I think all football coaches have some sort of similar saying like that, and it's about how you finish, right? It's all about how you finish. So, as a football team, we want to finish strong, and we've put ourselves in a position to do that. But it's about going and doing it, right? It's about going and doing it.
I remember last season, a few seniors didn't go through senior day stuff because they had already made the decision that they were going to take advantage of the extra year of eligibility. Is there any plans to do that again this year, or just go ahead and honor everyone and make your decisions afterwards?
No, there's going to be a couple that don't go because they've already made their decisions to come back, and there's a couple that are going through it because they have not yet made the decision. And so, we've asked that they start. Last year there was a COVID waiver, right? Everybody could come back. This year the NCAA has not done that or made a decision on that. Everybody counts, and so in order for us to really properly weigh numbers and make sure we have the right numbers for the signing class, the right numbers for the 85, people are going to have to make decisions, but we also want to respect their ability to make that decisions, and so give them the time and space that they need, and we don't want them to make a snap decision.
I think it was about this time last year that you kind of lobbied to get Mike Mayetti back. Any such statements about maybe Tyler taking his extra year?
No, I think this time last year we were still playing like week 7. I think we were like week 6 of the season and still had 3 cancellations to happen. So no, I haven't made any conversations with Tyler or about that. The one thing I think is very important for everybody is everybody's situation is uniquely different. And everybody involved in the draft process or the next level process has to determine what is in their best interest. Are they going to create more value for themselves by coming back? If you can create more value for yourself by coming back and being drafted at a higher round, then that's going to create more security and long-term advantages for you. If you can't, if what you're going to do next year is only going to re-reach the level that you're at right now, then it's in your best interest to avoid the risk and go ahead and move on. And I think every individual player is different. I've had to go through this several times throughout my career, not only as a head coach but as an assistant. And so I think when it comes to the end of the season, when you can really start considering those things, we send all the players that are draft eligible their grades in, get a grade report back, tell us what the NFL would advise, make our best recommendation, and then they visit with their circle and decide. So that'll be the process. But I think Tyler's really just focused on playing Florida.
How valuable has he been in just his consistency, the way he bounces off tackles, yards after the initial contact? I mean, the way he is so consistent.
Well, I think he's been 5 wins valuable. I don't know that we have 5 wins if it's not for Tyler Beatty. And you think about the Central Michigan game and the fourth quarter when he's able to break the long run and set us up to win the game. And again, you get to the Vanderbilt game where they've cut it down to 3 and hand him the ball and he goes 78 yards. And then, again, misplays in the fourth quarter that allow the game to get a lot closer than it needed to be. And then, Tyler is able to run us down the field and we're able to take a knee. So, I think all those plays are really definitive of how much impact he's had for us.
Could he have done what he's doing now last year? I mean, Larry was here, but or did he need that offseason, whatever he's changed?
I've been so impressed with Tyler. I think he's got that ability. I think if he was the guy last year and Larry wasn't here, we would have seen a lot of the similar traits. I do think that he was able to put on some weight and maybe put the mindset like, all right, Larry's not here, so I am going to have to carry the ball more. But he's a special player, and I think he's always been a special player and would have been able to be that same player last year.
Have you seen any instances, does he get tired? Because it doesn't really appear that he ever is in the fourth quarter needing a break.
Well, the only time I saw him tired was against Vanderbilt when he had that really long run, and then I made him stay in and go one more, and I was like, yeah, I probably should have got him out. But no, in the fourth quarter, he's always ready to go, and he's a competitor. He wants to be in there. He wants the ball in his hands, and yeah.
Are there any other players that you've seen this season that have been 5 wins valuable to you?
I think everybody's been 5 wins valuable to us. Obviously, Tyler's not the guy he is if Michael Mayety's not playing center and our offensive line and our tight ends aren't blocking, our quarterback's not throwing the ball deep. And, we've been very good on third downs, knock on wood, and red zone execution, which have allowed us to score points and stay in football games. So, when I say that stuff about Tyler, I'm pointing out the particulars at the end of the game to help us win. But collectively, obviously Harrison Mevis has been very good. And there's been individual and team contributions on the defensive side of the ball. I think they've really played well these last 2 games and are playing better in these last 2 games. And I thought last week they played their best game by far. So I think it's been a total contribution. I don't mean for it to be like it's Tyler or bust. I just point out that he's had some great individual efforts too.
Speaking of the offensive line, obviously you have good things to say about them after the game on
Yeah.
Saturday. The 2 transfers who were kind of manning the right side, Connor Wood and E.J. Domogar, what does it kind of say about them that neither one came in and was necessarily starting right away, but has been able to fill in a pinch with Wood, especially in multiple spots?
Yeah, again, that's the benefit of getting a guy like Connor, who's played college football, had a lot of really good starts, and understands that you have to prepare each week, and you never know when your number's called. And he's been able to be very position flexible for us, and has provided a huge. I would say we wouldn't win the game against South Carolina if he hadn't had the position flexibility to slide out to right tackle for us. EJ has continued to work to progress in our offense and understand the techniques and schemes that we've asked him to do. I think it wasn't a perfect game. There's a lot of things on tape that we're working to improve, but those guys have worked really hard to put themselves in a position to contribute.
Eli, it was something to me about how you view Florida, especially maybe their head coach and everything happened at halftime last year. But when you look back on last year's game and maybe the rivalry between Mizzou and Florida, what are your thoughts on how kind of the state of that rivalry?
I think it's a good rivalry. I think we're 5-5, Missouri versus Florida. Last year was last year. I think we've put that to bed. Both teams issued statements following the game, and I don't think there's anything really to add to that. I think Coach Mullen's a good football coach. Obviously, he's got a really sharp offensive mind, and has been very good for a long time on the offensive side of the ball. I think he's been a head coach in this league for 13 years, which is saying a lot considering there's been several coaches that only lasted 2. And so I think, obviously I have a lot of respect for how he's handled himself as a head football coach and the way he's developed programs. And so, to me, there's nothing there. We made statements last season, and I'll let those speak for themselves. I made a joke this summer about wanting snow, and apparently the snow gods aren't going to cooperate. So I'll keep any more wisecracks to myself.
Is there anything that stands out of an area of particular emphasis this week that you can do to get 6 wins in that whole important number as you can?
We have to take care of the football. We can't turn the ball over 3 times and expect to win a game. So we've got to protect the football. Defensively, we've got to be much better on third downs. That was an area that was disappointing. Our tackling was not great. There was several opportunities to make tackles short of third down conversions that we missed. And so really those are the points of emphasis right now for both sides of the ball on how do we clean those things up.
What's it like kind of constructing senior classes now as opposed to 5-10 years ago? The guys who came up together over 4 or 5 years, and now it's a lot different.
Yeah, again, it's totally different. We're going to be celebrating a couple of guys who transferred in last year that have been here for 2 years. We've got several guys that have transferred in this year. We have several guys who've been here for, 6 to 7 years. So it's a combination. I think that's reflective of college football, but it's kind of reflective of a locker room and why it's such a unique game and an awesome representation of our country and our ability to all work together to create some sort of success. And you realize that individual success is not possible unless you work as a team. And the best way to work on it as a team is to actually care about each other and invest in each other. And I think that's really what's important in developing these senior classes. They're not as probably, like you said, 10 years ago, they all came in together and it was about who survived. Now it's about who all comes together and what you work to accomplish together.
With the run defense and the improvement that you guys have shown there in recent weeks, was there a point for you as a head coach where you could kind of sense a change there, kind of feel that starting the shift?
When you go back and look at the North Texas game, I thought we saw some improvements in our gap sound, in shedding blocks. I didn't think it really carried over that much to the Texas A&M game. I think we had the ability to make some plays in the Vanderbilt game, but we lost contain on the quarterback. But really, I felt like against Georgia, where we were able to set edges, and not lose contain, we were able to fill downhill at the linebacker position, which allowed the D-line to get off blocks a little bit easier because they're not double teams aren't sustaining on them. And so I really feel like that was when it started to change, and then last week it showed up a little bit more.
Eli Drinkwitz been here, I think, 4 years now, and haven't seen the field a whole lot for the last few weeks, but what's he done for you since he's kind of been pressed into a little more duty?
Jatorian's one of those guys that has battled through a lot of injuries. It's an unfortunate part of the game, and he's stayed positive and continued to work and just focused on what he can control. He has made some big plays for us, in the last 2 games, and so we look forward to him continuing to do that and see what kind of contributions he can make when his number is called.
You mentioned how it's kind of hard to pinpoint the Florida defense where things are off.
Mm-hmm.
You study more just the personnel. You got to look at the scheme too. But is it kind of a puzzle to figure out what's going on there?
Yeah, it's very confusing. You've got, each play caller has their own DNA that they kind of rely on and fingerprint when they call a game. And I've gone against Coach Grantham several times, and so I wouldn't say I had a good idea of what he's going to do, but you'd felt it, and you kind of know when they're playing a cat and mouse game. And so when you're watching tape, you see, okay, that's Coach Grantham's fingerprint. And then now with the new defensive coordinator. It's the same style of scheme, but you're not quite sure what he's going to do. I mean, how's he going to call it in this situation or in that situation? What's his go-to when his back's against the wall, so to speak? And so that makes it a little bit unique. We pride ourselves offensively as trying to be creative and create challenges for defenses to try to identify and fit and figure out if they can match, our motions and shifts and see if they leave gaps uncovered. So, that's kind of who we are, and we'll just see if what we are and who we are is capable of creating, success for us Saturday.